How's the sound? Everybody hear me good? It's going to be a slightly interesting one, I hope. Looks like there might be a Marlin issue. I'll talk about it in a couple minutes. Let's see what we got here. We got about 3 minutes. We're going to see how an actual bug might exist. We'll see how it plays out on Marlin's GitHub page over the next couple of days. But it's an interesting issue, and hopefully they'll think the same. So if any of you have a SKR or we'll try other boards to confirm, but this is going to be different. So we're getting pretty close. I'll start in a second. Just bringing the lights online and putting away some tools. Down to the countdown. Okay, today we are going to talk about an issue that I just discovered. I don't know if it's an actual issue, but the normal process in which I load firmware appears to have changed, which will affect a lot of tutorials that I've made in the past. So I'm going to show you ways to work around it and also how to report it, and we'll see what happens from there. So to start with, normally we load firmware on this board, being the SKR, through USB serial. So we're going to test that first. I don't remember which state I left the actual board in, but what we'll do is we'll go over and we'll actually start playing with it. So I'm going to bring up on the desktop the actual environment that we're going to be working in. So let me transition over here. So we have the newest version, which I named 2.0.8, and the older version, which was 2.0.7.2. So I'm going to extract this first, and I'm going to load this in VS Code as soon as it extracts. So I'll check on the chat real quick while that's going on. Let's see. Got an SKR 1.3, if that's of use. Yeah, it may be similar on that as well. We can test that. I was going to test it on like 3 boards just to see if the symptoms are the same. But I'm going to start with 2.7. and we're going to go from there. So here's the actual open one. Let's confirm what the version is. So if we go to version.h, we can see the version is 2.0.72. And I'll show you a trick for the other one real quick. So in this one, we can look inside the zip and we can check the version and we can see that it's a different one. So currently all we have open is this one. So let's go over to VS Code, and inside VS Code, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Explorer, Open Folder. We're going to go to Downloads. We're going to open that, then the second Marlin, then select Folder. Inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Marlin folder like normal, SKR. Then we'll go to Core and Boards.h. We'll search on the SKR, and we'll find our turbo version down here. And we're going to note the chipset, which is LPC 1769. So we'll close that. We'll go over to configuration.h. We'll search on motherboard, and we'll paste over the ramp's configuration. Next, we're going to change this to -1. Now, for people that have asked, you can use this as well. You just have to leave this one alone or comment it out. But I like to use this one. It's just force a habit. So that's all we need to set there, except for platform.io.ini, and the chipset is LPC 1769. So we're going to first click the checkbox to make sure it builds okay. It probably will fail. So we're going to do a clean so that we can get the old Mega out of here real quick. Once this is gone, we can do the checkbox to do a build. This will pull down what we need for our framework and start compiling each and every piece, thus a build. And when this completes, we'll actually do an upload to the board. So we'll check to see what the board is right now while this is building. It's only going to be a couple seconds. But here's the board. It only has firmware.cur. Obviously, I was playing with it earlier today. So let's go back over here and do an upload, which will be quicker. And we'll double check it. Let me just get to the right folder. And you can see there's firmware.bin that pushed over. So we're going to go over to the board now. And all I'm going to do, because it's on the drive already, is just disconnect, then reconnect, noting that we're on USB power at the moment. So on the screen, we won't see anything because we don't have it set up at the moment. And obviously the Blink M was something I talked about last night and still haven't taken off the board, so we'll leave that alone for now. So let's double check to see what happened. This is just really simple stuff, but it's going to be kind of boring. So we're going to go to the drive. We know that it updated to firmware.cur. If we wanted to reload, we'd rename it to firmware.bin and reload it again in lowercase. But what we're going to do is do another build. We'll turn on the screen just to confirm. So I'm going to search on rep, wrap, discount. And we'll find the second one. Hang on a second here, I'm just confusing myself. It's full graphics smart controller, sorry. So, we'll load it again using the upload button like we did before. And this will just confirm on the screen what's occurring. Now, we've got an error, I don't know what it is. So let's see. It says there's some kind of fatal error, so we'll do a clean, and then we'll do, whoop, I just did a second clean. We'll do an upload and see if it works again. If it doesn't work, we'll find the first error and fix it, but this is just a shortcut to get us to where we need to go. It's probably not an error, it's just something's building out of order in this version of Marlin. So it's almost done. We'll check the drive right after it finishes. So you can see that it just popped. So we're going to go over here and we have firmware.bin. So let's go back over to the bench and disconnect, reconnect, watch the LED. It's going to say the Marlin version, hopefully. There it is. So we're good there. So now what we're going to do is we know it's going to load again if we do another change. So let's confirm that we can just do another build real quick. We'll check on the drive. I just want to see what it looks like. And then I'm going to show you where it breaks. So if you go to upload, hopefully this won't fail. And let's check on the drive. So it's there. So we know it's working. So I'm going to disconnect, reconnect on the board. Sorry you didn't see that part. I'll show it again just so you can see it. I don't want this to be a mystery. So I'm just going to do an upload. And we'll check on the drive real quick. So we're going to go to our D drive. You can see it right there. Nothing mysterious about that. So I'll go over to the board, disconnect, reconnect, just to confirm. It's going to load the exact same thing. And we just want to see what happens on the drive to make sure it's okay. So let's go back over to the drive. And as you can see, it says firmware.cur. So we're going to go to VS Code. Whoop, sorry I didn't transition that. Let me take that back so you can see it. So firmware.cur is loaded. So we're going to go back over to VS Code. And we're just going to close it right here. So folder close or close folder. Then we're going to go over to the drive for downloads. And we're going to open up this version by extracting all. So as soon as this is complete, it's going to be interesting as well because we'll see if any behaviors change. So I'll check on the chat while this is going on. Hey Igor, how's it going? So let's see, we got a bunch of people in here today. Okay, so this is almost complete. So we're going to go back over to VS Code in a moment. Let's just confirm what we see in here. So we're going to go in here, Marlin version. We're going to check to make sure we're on the right version, which is right here. So we're good there. So we'll close out of that. And we'll go over to Explorer, open folder, downloads. We'll go to 8 or the 2.0.8. Open the second folder, select folder. We're going to do the exact same process and see what happens. So we're going to go over to the Marlin folder, then the source, then core, then boards.h. We're going to search on SKR. We're going to pull the turbo again. Then we'll minimize this and source, go to core, or excuse me, configuration.h, and we'll search on motherboard. We'll paste this in here. We'll change this to -1. And then we'll search on rep underscore discount. And we'll find the second one, which is the full graphics smart controller. Remove the comment. So we're good there. Now we need to set up the platform io.ini, and it's changed because now they link these folders into the actual config. So our default environment is going to be under INI. Then we're going to find our chipset, which is LPC 176X. And the board that we're working with is the turbo. So our environment is going to be this. So LPC 1769. So we'll copy that. Minimize the folder. Then we'll go back over to platformio.ini. Paste it over the default environment for the Mega. And we'll do a clean just to be good practice, even though it's probably not required. And then we'll do a build first. And this will probably be slightly quicker because I think they optimized it, meaning that they checked it, but we're seeing fatal errors again. So we've got something going on with the watchdog here. Watchdog usually means if a program stops, it restarts. And then utility.cpp and serial. So these are errors that might be occurring during the assembly. So let's do it a second time. and see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll do a clean again. So, seems to be chugging away. Obviously, a lot of build errors have to do with the order in which you build things. So if something doesn't exist, it will fail. So as you can see, it's finishing up right now. And it just popped. So we can look in .pio under build LPC 1769 and see the actual build exists. Let's try and upload now. So we're going to do the button over here, but let's check on the drive real quick. So if I go over to the D drive, it's not there right now. So let's go back and let's do an upload. In theory, this should work, and it doesn't. So question is, why doesn't it work? So they talk about what might be occurring over in here, but obviously something about this build is different in this firmware than the other firmware. So it's probably an easy comparison for the developer to figure out. So we're not going to go too deep into what's occurring, but you can see that it's not working and it's not showing up over here. So the recovery is to roll back to 2.0.72, or you can load with a USB stick. And I'll show you that real quick just so you can see, because that's an easy recovery. So if I go over to the workbench and I pop this out, you can see that there's nothing in it yet. So I'll power this down, pop out the drive, and place it in here. And hopefully I placed it the right way, so I'll put it in the computer for a second. Then I'll go back over to the desktop on the computer. I'll open a drive. I'll check to see it's there. It shows up. So we're going to go back over to VS Code. We're going to right click on firmware.bin and we'll say reveal in Explorer. We'll right click on this and we'll send it to our E drive. Now let's check. It's there. So let's go back over to the desktop and see what happens. This is the way you can recover when you have a bad situation. There is a third way to recover with the SWDE pins over here, but I'd rather you try this and only this because the other one is more extreme and can cause damage to your configuration if things don't go right. So it says Marlin 2.0.8. So now we know we can load it. It's a little bit of a pain while they fix it if it's broken or if I understand the problem correctly. But let's test it on other boards just to verify what's going on. So I'm going to power this board down for the moment. I'm going to take this off for a second. And I'm going to lift this up. It's going to take me a second to get this stuff out of the way. And I'll place this off to the side because we want to see if it happens on another board. I'm going to leave the drive in there. So another board that's similar is the MKS. So I've got to find one real quick here. So I've got an MKS, and I'm just going to take this stepper out because we're not using that at the moment. And I'm going to set this up as well. But first I'm going to make sure it doesn't slide around on me, so give me a second here to fix that. Okay. Let me just center it in here so you can see. And we'll use the LED in just a second, but there's another step that you need to do with this one, so it's kind of painful. So I'm just going to move it off to the side for the moment. And I'll plug this in. And all we're going to do is go over to the computer and see what it looks like. So over on the computer, we're going to open up a folder. We're going to go to the D drive. It says firmware.cur. So we know this board operates. So now let's try and load firmware on this one. So we're going to have to go over to, well, we're going to have to reduce this down. I'm also going to have to double check the chipset because I don't remember off the top of my head if it's an LPC 1768 or an LPC 1769. I believe it's a 1769. So we're just gonna try that first. So first thing we need to do is go to source core boards.h, search on MKS _ sGen, and let's see what version we have here. So that's under LPC 1768. So under 69 we have this one and this one. So let's copy this one because it says V2 and we've confirmed the chipset. We don't have to actually go to the website and check it. So let's minimize this, minimize core and source, pardon me. Then go to configuration.h. We're going to search on motherboard and we're going to paste over our board. That's all you have to do to change between these two boards. So we're going to do a clean. Then we're going to do a build to make sure it builds okay. It may fail, I don't know, but probably not. Looks like it's building okay. I'll check on the chat while this is going on. Yeah, this is the MKS Gen L. The other one, MKS Gen L, is a different board that's 8-bit. This one's 32. So let me go back over and see what's going on here. So it looks like it built successfully. So let's try and upload and see if it works. So it failed. So it says permissions denied. So we know what's going on now. It doesn't seem to work. I'll show you how to recover from it in just a second. But first I'm going to load it and cause the issue, and then I'll fix the issue afterwards. So I'm going to go over to the drive and show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to power it down. I'm going to pop out the drive. I'm going to pop it into my Rocket Tech over here, hopefully correctly. Drop it in the computer. Then on the computer, I'm going to go to the drive. First I'm going to cause the issue, then I'm going to fix it. So we're going to go over to the drive to check on it. It's firmware.cur from last month, mid-month. So what we want to do is actually go over to our build, and we want to see if the build's actually succeeded, which it did. It just didn't upload. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to reveal in File Explorer, right click again and send to the E drive. So now it's on the E drive, we can confirm it. So we're going to load it and then we're going to undo the damage. So I'm going to pop this out, go back over to the workbench, pop it in here, plug it in, let it flash. We'll confirm in Pronterface what's going on. So I'm going to bring up Pronterface. Just give me a second here to get it all situated. And inside Pronterface, we'll try connecting to the device. It didn't work, so it's saying we're at 500. So we're going to crank it down because that's what I used last time I was here. Still doesn't work. So let's go over to VS Code. Or excuse me, not VS Code. We're going to go over to Device Manager. And we're going to see what's connected. So I'm going to show you that in 2 seconds. There we go. So in Device Manager, we're going to go to our ports. It's port 10, that's why it's not working. So we're going to correct that by clicking over here. And the reason that showed up is it may have been buffered from a previous load. So let's click on this. We're now online. Let's see if we can see some of the stats. I think it's M503, but somebody else out there knows the actual G code for version. But let's see if it shows up in here. So I don't see the version. I know there's a G code for the version. I'll check on the chat while I go over to the browser. So in the browser, we can go to Help, G codes, all documents, search on version, hopefully. Hang on, I'm having trouble searching. Control F. Okay, version doesn't show up, so I think it's around the M50 something. I'll check on the chat in a second to see. Let's see, restore settings factory, report settings, validate EEPROM. We're not using EEPROM at the moment, so I don't see it. I know there's a way to check it, but obviously it's not obvious. So let's see if the chat knows off the top of their head. M115. Thank you, Foxabillo. So let's try that. M115. Yes, the version's right there. So we know when it was actually made today, and it says our source. So we know what's going on. Now let's try and load a different source. So obviously the correction's kind of simple. I'm gonna well, I can't do an upload here, so I'm gonna have to close out of here. So I'm gonna close the folder. Let me double check that you can see what I'm doing. Click over here, do open folder. I'm going to then go to, whoop, as I move folders around, the D drive, or excuse me, the downloads directory. I'll wake up in a minute. I'm going to go to 2.0.72 and then the Marlin folder below it. Select the folder. We're going to have to change the configuration for this. So I'm going to go to source core boards.h, search on MKS _ sGen, find it down here, copy it, minimize source and core, go to configuration.h, search on motherboard, replace the motherboard, and then the chipset should still be the same. So let's do a clean, and then let's try first a build, and hopefully it'll build correctly and not fail. And then we'll try and open a bug on Marlin's website, and then we'll observe what happens. Just so you know, a lot of developers are very protective of their work. So their response may not be what you expect. Just understand that their belief is that it works. And until they have evidence otherwise, they will assume that it's correct. So let's double check to see if that actually copied over. So it looks like it copied over no problem. So all we have to do is remove the actual drive for USB serial or the connection and plug it back in, and it'll flash it back to what we were working with. So let's double check in Pronterface. So in Pronterface, we're going to disconnect and reconnect. We're going to do an M115, and it's changed. So we know that reloads because we tested it already. So now I'm going to show you how to deal with the actual bug and show somebody else. They may not like it. Just understand that they have a different perspective, and when proof is clear that there's an issue, or that either myself or them doesn't understand something, that we both have to talk back and forth to understand what's going on. So this might be somewhat interesting to see what happens. So we're going to go over to Marlin. We're going to go to downloads. We're going to go to reporting an issue or issues. We're going to search and see if there's actually a bug on this real quick. It's only existed for a couple of days, so we know that it came out last Friday. So we're going to go back 8 days just to see what's going on for bugs. And some of these bugs might overlap for versions, so just keep that in mind. It doesn't look like I see an issue. If you see one, flag it for me. But it's between 1 and 2, so I don't see anything that clearly says this is a bug. So I'm just going to scan through here. It's a good thing we found it so early because it will help other people. So I don't see anything regarding the actual firmware load or reload. So what we're going to do is we're going to say new issue. Obviously I have to log in. Of course I forgot my user login, so this might take a second. Or they remove my account, one of the two. So let's try this again. Let's try sign up or sign in. There we go. It's gonna fail probably. Nope, didn't fail. Okay, so new issue. Report a bug. Get started. And so they give you a template. So provide a good title starting with bug. So we have to go up here and we have to create a summary. So you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we're going to say Marlin firmware.bin unable to load a second time in VS Code for version 2.0.8. And then let's see what it says here. Do you want to ask a question or are you looking for support? And then it shows links. We already know that it's an issue. So before reporting bug, read and understand the Marlin Code of Conduct. That means be polite. So let's see. Test with, and then they want to know if the issue exists or still exists. So we just tested with Marlin 2.0.8, so we know it exists. And then it says provide a good title. Fill out the section for the bug report form. So let's see, we have right here, describe the bug in this section. Tell us where, tell us what you were trying to do and what happened, and that it did, what happened and basically what didn't expect to happen. Sorry, I'm getting tripped up on my own words. So when loading Marlin version 2.0.8 firmware.bin on SKR _V1 4 or MKS sGen _L V2 firmware reload fails. So via USB. That's kind of an important detail. So I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna include the files, but let's see, is this a new bug or an issue? When did it first start? So I'm gonna say 2.0.8. Expected behavior, firmware.bin from VS Code loads via serial connection. This is the USB serial cable, so they understand what I'm saying, I hope. So we'll say USB just in case they don't understand what I'm saying. But essentially a serial cable is usually 4 wires. It's black, which is ground, red, which is voltage, and then you have a transmit and a receive. So that's what serial USB is, usually. It can vary. So actual behavior, firmware.bin fails to load from Marlin firmware upload in VS Code for version 2.0.8 for both SKR_V14 turbo and MKS sGen L V2.0. So it might be limited to one thing. We'll try it on the SKR 1.3 in a second just to verify. Steps to do this. So they want to know how to do this. So step 1, download newest Marlin firmware 2.0.8 and then clean up my wonderful grammar. And I'll check on the chat in a second. Open in VS Code after extracting zip file for Marlin firmware. I'm kind of skipping steps just because I'm trying to show my work but not overshow it. And then step 3, if I can spell code, change Marlin or change configuration.h for motherboard for either, let's see, either SKR_V14 or MKS Gen L V2, or watch live stream video. That might upset them, but it's the best way to actually get them to see what's going on. So then upload build to either motherboard for firmware.bin. Okay, so those are the steps. I probably left out one, so I'm going to move this over. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to paste it over here for a second, and I'm going to say change platform io.ini for LPC 1769. They might have trouble with my steps. But they're kind of obvious. Let's see, version of Marlin software. See about the menu on the LCD. M115, note the older version. I'm sorry, note for older releases, we only had to patch critical bugs. I have no clue what they're saying here. Maybe you can clue me in, but I think it's 2.0.8. Printer model, not applicable, because we're using, it doesn't even get to the model type that we're working with. Stock electronics, SKR 1.4. We'll say turbo, and then we'll say MKS Gen L V2. Please list add-on hardware involved. Not applicable. It's just we're working with one thing. Your slicer doesn't matter. Let's see, host software doesn't matter. So we need to upload our configuration. So we're going to say Marlin. Let's see. We're going to upload both folders. So I'm going to zip them. So I'll show you that real quick. We're going to go over to our downloads. We're going to change. Well, I'm going to delete these for the moment because I have them backed up. And I'm going to zip both of these together, hopefully, or I'm going to zip them separately. So let's see, zip, add to archive. I'm doing 7-zip. I don't want to do that, so let me try again. It's going to be, sorry, I added 7-zip because someone had an issue and I used that. So there it is. Add to compress zip. And let's check inside. We got 2 builds. Let's rename the folder so it's less confusing. Or more confusing, but they'll figure it out. And 2.0.7.2. That makes total sense, right? I'm going to then move this or minimize this a little. And I'm going to copy it into here. And hope that they don't get too upset. Let's see, firmware.bin VS Code loads via serial connection. Actual behavior firmware fails to load from Marlin upload in VS Code. Okay, so that looks somewhat sketchy, but hopefully, yes, the problem still exists. So hopefully when we submit this, they won't get too upset or they'll ask for more information. So we'll just click here and that's the bug. So note the actual number and then every couple days check on it. I'll post the link to the video eventually to explain it, but let's try the SKR version 1.3 as well. Sorry, I got off on a tangent just doing that. Let me read your comments real quick. Let's see, execute task, target upload, and that's the command line. If loaded from SD card motherboard, it works. Say bin to SD card on PC, then insert SD in slot, powerless motherboard, and start up. Yeah, these are good steps. What I would like to see you guys do is if you have additional information, because I sometimes don't clearly explain it, is you can actually look for this issue on Marlin and update what you've seen. Try your own configurations just to verify. Okay, we got a comment down here, define default volume SD on board. Interesting. Let's try that out and see what happens. So let's look for this and see if this fixes the problem. So let's go over to VS Code and I have to go over to configuration.h probably, and we'll search on that. Okay, I don't see it just yet, but let's see what we find. So it's not there. Let's see if it's here. Okay, define default volume. That means they only fix stuff in version 2.x.x, not, yeah, advanced config. Okay, let's see what we got here. I've got to turn my screen so I can actually read it. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for, sorry. Let's do SD. I don't see it in this version, but I might be on the wrong version. So let's check my version because I might be in a different place. That's why. So let's close out of this and open up the other one and see if we can fix this problem. Otherwise, I just opened a bug that they're going to tell me is not a bug, which is okay with me. You have to comment it out. So let's go to downloads, open up this, select folder. As soon as it gets there, let's go to config advanced, do a search, and we'll search on what you said right here. So comment this out and see if it loads. So we're still connected to the board, so I'm gonna double check, see what's going on the board. And it's firmware.cur. Let's try a load and see if it works. And then we'll check the release notes to make sure that I just didn't miss it. But it failed on my side. Not sure why it failed, but this is the actual thing that we're seeing. So we'll do this for the additional information, and we'll go back over the bug. And let me get back to the bug. Here is what occurs at end of compile on VS Code. And we'll comment. And then we'll double check by disconnecting here in case that's causing an issue, and try this again. And still an issue. So I think it's broken. Obviously someone's going to explain to me either way. Yeah, essentially all we're trying to figure out is why it's broken, and obviously something changed, and the way to do it is, one way is to just do a check on the changes that occurred between files, between the last build, or excuse me, the last release and this release, and that helps you narrow it down. But I don't want to get in the weeds on talking about actual different methods for troubleshooting bugs in source control. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and try 1.3 in a second. So let me see if I can find the board. I probably have it close by. Sorry, it's a filing cabinet of boards here, so it's a little confusing. Here it is. So this is the SKR version 1.3. We'll double check it. I'm guessing the issue is going to be the same. This might be the LPC 1768 for the chipset, but we'll figure that out in a moment. So the jumper, we want to set it to USB power. So the quick way to test it is to plug it in. It seems like it's coming up because there's power. We'll test it real quick and then we'll find a different subject. So let's double check the version we're in. We're in 2.8. Let's go back to the other one. Open. Select the folder. Let's see, configuration.h. We got to change the motherboard. So source, core, boards.h. It's probably in this neighborhood. It's that one right there probably, because there's no turbo version. So we'll go back to configuration.h, paste it right here. Serial port's fine. We got to change the platform.io.ini to 68. And then upload. Oh, I forgot to show you what I was doing, so sorry. On occasion, I go off on a tangent. Obviously, it failed, so we'll do a clean. We'll do a rebuild. We'll check on the drive while that's going. That's a long time ago since I've loaded this one. And it looks like it's succeeding. But essentially all I did was change config.h and platform.io.ini. So let's try and upload. And it worked. Let's double check to make sure we can load it. Okay, let's go back over to Pronterface. Inside Pronterface, let's try and connect. I know it's not going to work. See if there's anything else that showed up here. Nope. We could try 13 just to see. Probably not going to work. And so we're going to have to go over to the desktop and check for Device Manager. Inside Device Manager, it's 7. Connect. It's now online. M115 says the version, so we're good there. So we'll disconnect. And then we'll change out of this and do the same in the other one. So we'll close. Then we'll reopen. We'll go over to our downloads folder. Select the folder. We're going to have to change the actual motherboard type. So obviously it might still be in the buffer. Let's see if we can get away with it. Looks like we can. We've got the first serial port. Let's go to Marlin's platform.io.ini and change this to 6.8. And let's do a clean. And let's just try and go straight to upload and see what happens. So let me move this down to here. It failed. So let's do a build. And then if this fails, we'll figure out the issue. It's going to take a second, but it looks like it's going to succeed. So it might be something that changed in the actual platform.io.ini, but I don't know for sure. So now I'm trying an upload. Doesn't work. So we know the issue's probably in here someplace. Not exactly sure what the issue is, but I mean, we could search around here and see what's going on for actual building. Or we could test this against older boards to see what's going on too. So there might be a common script or something that's missing that's normally in the other one, but I don't know for sure what's going on. Obviously you have flags you can set. I don't want to get too deep into talking about environments because this can go off into tangents that will be epic. But let me check on the chat. Okay, let's see what we got here. That won't do anything because it shades out, meaning that the define ifs or if defines are not in use. It seems to be changed from automatic firmware detection. Hey, I've got Amazon box full of them. It is the 8. It seems to be detecting the C as the firmware drive somehow. That can mean that the firmware.cur in the root of C. Could, but I think it's a build script at the end has been modified because the build actually takes place. It just doesn't upload. But it looks like an issue. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to grab the link to this live stream and actually post it. So you might hear an echo for a half a second. There we go. So I'm going to grab the link. I'm going to go back over to firmware for Marlin. And I'm going to say, here is a video of us TS troubleshooting the issue, and post it there. They may not be a fan of that, but it shows what we're doing in live timing. So we can also check to see if there's actually any updates by hitting refresh that came from anybody else. At present, they haven't. They might have complaints about the way that I opened the bug or what I did. That's normal. But generally you have to kind of step out on the branch either to find out what your error is or explain to them that they have an error. So it's a polite way to express your concern about a bug that affects everyone. I can't tell you how to be polite with people other than I might not understand something and they may not understand something, so you kind of have to work through it. I've done it many times, so we'll see what happens. But you can keep an eye on this. I'll put it in the description of the actual video so that you can watch along or make comments. Maybe you can educate me on something I missed. So we'll say in the actual description, here is the bug opened. And paste it right there. So that's all we can do. I didn't show you the actual innards to what I was pasting, but it's in the video description now and saved. But it's a link for you guys to actually look at it. Yeah, I like to post links for the bugs as a video, but the last time I recorded something for a very long time, they asked me the way in which I troubleshoot. I think in terms of unit testing, because I figure out each piece to see how it works. Obviously, I've been doing it for a very long time, and I don't want to be rude to the person on the other end, so they may have a different perspective on if it's an issue or not, but that's the way I think. I think in pieces and then combine the pieces. It's a weird way of thinking of things, but it is helpful for me making a living. But I'm not going to talk about how I make a living. So let's just say it's working with software and hardware. Anyways, what other questions do you guys have? Because I don't like talking about myself. Okay, well, if you guys don't have a lot of questions today, I'm working still on the development of the 3D printer. I have to wait on parts to check some stuff, but we're down to just me plugging in an idler and checking the movement of the Z-axis, which is probably going to take me a week or two more. So those that are waiting on that printer to appear on Patreon, it'll be up there eventually. I also may develop a second thing for a swooping camera, and then maybe I'll release the video cage that I built so that you can record your own videos. But those will all be up on Patreon for those that are subscribed. And for those that are tipping in Super Chat, thank you very much. It helps offset the cost of doing tutorials for you. And today I'm gonna have to try and record 3 or 4 more tutorials. So I'm gonna kind of cut it short today. And those eventually will start popping up on Patreon before they go out the door on YouTube. So there might be like a week or two delay between my videos while I troubleshoot stuff. This is obviously one of the issues that I ran into. But thank you all for your super chats and Patreon support. It's greatly appreciated. It helps offset the cost of buying hardware. And everyone take care, wear a mask, be safe, and get vaccinated if you can. And please remember to like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed.